Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Sayyida Alina Batul and I'm a foundation level student in Rahan School. So today I'm going to do a session with Maya on the topic of what's the matter, and I will ask some questions and she have to give me answers. So let's start. Hi Maya, how are you?
Hi, Sayadeli. I'm doing well, thanks. Good to be kicking off this session with you on What's the Matter? I'm ready when you are. What's your first
Okay.
question?
So my first question is, what does the phrase what's the matter usually imply in daily conversations?
Usually, what's the matter implies that you sense someone is upset or dealing with a problem. It's a way of showing concern and asking them to share what's wrong or what's bothering them. It's like you notice something's off and you want to offer support or understanding.
Okay, so now tell me, how does tone affect the meaning of this question?
Tone is everything with what's the matter? A gentle tone sounds caring, like you genuinely want to help. But a sharp or impatient tone can come across as accusatory or annoyed. A flat tone might make it seem like you're just going through the motions and don't really care. So, how you say it totally changes whether it's a warm offer or a kind of cold questioning.
Okay, so the next question from you is, when is it appropriate to ask someone what's the matter?
Good question. Timing really matters. You'd ask what's the matter when you notice someone seems down, stressed, or upset, like if they're quiet when they're usually chatty, or if their face shows they're bothered by something, but not when someone's just had a bad day or is dealing with normal life stuff, unless they clearly need help or support.
Okay, so my next question from you is, can this question sometimes feel intrusive and why?
Daku, that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, I think it can feel inclusive because it's showing you've noticed them and care enough to ask what's going on. You're signaling that their feelings matter and you're creating space for them to share what they're going through. It makes them
Okay,
feel seen
nice
and
answer.
supported, not
So my
dismissed
next
or
question from
ignored.
you is, how does culture influence how this question is perceived?
That's a great point. Culture definitely shapes how what's the matter lands. In some cultures, direct questions about feelings can be seen as nosy or too personal. People might be more reserved about sharing emotional stuff. But in other cultures, it's really common and expected to ask directly and show concern. So, context and cultural norms definitely play a big role in how it's understood and received.
It's is what's the matter always asked out of concern?
Nope, not always. Sometimes people can ask, what's the matter out of irritation instead of concern. Like if someone's being weird or acting differently, you might say it with a bit of annoyance, wanting to know what the issue is and get them to stop whatever they're doing. So it really depends on the speaker's mood, too. It can go both ways.
How can body language change the impact of this question?
Body language matters massively. If you're asking, what's the matter, and leaning forward, making eye contact, and looking genuinely concerned, it shows you're truly interested in helping. But if you're avoiding eye contact, crossing your arms, or looking impatient, it sends a signal that you're either disinterested or even blaming them.
Okay.
So, nonverbal cues can make a big difference in how that question comes across.
What are alternative ways to ask this question gently?
There are tons of gentle ways. Instead of, what's the matter, which can feel direct, you could say, are you okay? Is everything all right? Or, you seem a bit quiet today. You
Why
could
do
also just offer support. Is there
why do
anything
some
you want to talk about?
yes, why do some people
By to say,
avoid asking this question?
some people avoid asking what's the matter because they might be uncomfortable with deep conversations or they don't know how to respond to someone's problems. Others may avoid it out of fear of getting involved in drama or, uncomfortable situations. Some just aren't sure what to say or don't want to pry too much. you know,
Okay, so my next question from you is, how does context shape the intention behind it?
context is huge. If you're talking to a close friend who's clearly upset about something, asking, "What's the matter?" is probably sincere concern. But if you're talking to a stranger who just bumped into you and seems flustered, "What's the matter?" might be more about figuring out what happened in that moment than deep emotional support. The
Okay,
situation and your relationship with the person change the entire intent.
okay, so the next question from you is, what emotions are often hidden behind silence?
Good question. Silence can hide all sorts of stuff. Sadness, obviously, when people are really down, sometimes they just shut down. But also anger, frustration, overwhelm, or even embarrassment.
Why do people
Sometimes
sometimes
people
say nothing when something is wrong?
sometimes it's they can't find the words to explain what's wrong, or they might feel ashamed or embarrassed about the situation. Other times people might be afraid of how others will react if they share what's bothering them, so they just stay silent. And sometimes, honestly, it's just easier to not deal with it out at all than to try to fix it or talk about it.
Why do people sometimes say nothing when something is wrong?
Mm, that's a good question. I think I repeated myself there. People stay quiet when something's wrong because they might be embarrassed, afraid of overreacting, or just not know how to put their feelings into words.
Okay,
Sometimes it feels safer to hold it in, especially if they've been hurt before or don't think anyone will understand. So it becomes a way of protecting themselves.
okay. So the next question from you is, how can we recognize unspoken emotions?
That's a really important skill to develop. You can recognize unspoken emotions by paying attention to body language, things like facial expressions, posture, and gestures. Also, looking for changes in someone's usual behavior. If they normally joke around and they're suddenly quiet, or if they're normally energetic and now they're withdrawn, that could be a sign they're keeping something bottled up.
Okay.
You also
So
have to
my
trust
next
your gut
question from you
intuition.
is, what role does empathy play in understanding others?
Empathy is absolutely key. It's like trying to step into someone else's shoes and understand what they're experiencing from their perspective. When we're empathetic, we're more able to really hear what people aren't saying, connect with their emotions, and respond in a way that genuinely supports them. Without empathy, it's hard to understand why someone might be quiet or avoiding a topic. We might just see it as aloofness instead of hurt or embarrassment.
Okay. So the next question from you is, how do personal experiences shape emotional responses?
Personal experiences shape emotional responses big time. If you've been through something similar to what someone else is experiencing, you're more likely to understand what they're feeling because you can relate to it on a deeper level. But past hurts or traumas can also make people more sensitive or guarded about certain topics. You might be more reactive if someone brings up something that reminds you of something difficult you've been through.
Why is it difficult for some people to express their feelings?
Lots of reasons. Some people grew up in families where expressing emotions wasn't encouraged. Maybe they were taught to toughen up or don't be sensitive. Others might be afraid of being judged or rejected if they show vulnerability, or they might not even know how to put their feelings into words. Past experiences where they were hurt or dismissed can also make it hard to trust people and share what they're going through.
Okay. So my next question from you is, how does fear affect emotional openness?
Fear is huge. It's often at the root of a lot of emotional shutdowns. People get afraid to open up about their feelings for a bunch of reasons. They might, I bet, fear rejection, judgment, getting hurt again, or even losing relationships if they show their true selves. Fear of vulnerability keeps people stuck in silence and makes it way harder to build real connection.
Okay, so my next question from you is, can emotional suppression lead to bigger problems and why?
Absolutely. Suppressing emotions might feel like it solves the problem in the moment, but it actually builds up pressure over time. When we bottle up feelings, they don't just disappear, they can come out in unhealthy ways like anxiety, depression, physical health problems, or even getting angry at someone else over something completely unrelated. Plus, long term suppression makes it harder to manage healthily in the future. You lose practice with acknowledging and processing what you're feeling.
How do different personalities respond to concern?
Different personalities respond really differently. More introverted types might need space and time to process before responding. Outgoing folks might try to solve everything with charm. Some people get really defensive, while others get withdrawn. There's no one size fits all because how we cope with stress and emotional support is deeply tied to how we're wired.
Okay, so my next question from you is, what are signs that someone is struggling internally?
Lots of signs. People might pull away, become more isolated, or change their routines, like suddenly stopping hobbies they used to love. They might also show mood swings, become more irritable, or seem preoccupied with worries.
Okay.
Physical signs like fatigue, changes in eating habits, or trouble sleeping can also be signals they're going through something tough on the inside.
What psychological barriers prevent people from opening up?
A few big ones: shame about their experiences, fear of judgment. Maybe they've learned in the past that showing vulnerability led to hurt, lack of trust, not having the emotional vocabulary to describe what they're going through. And there's a lot going on under the surface that
How does anxiety affect communication?
anxiety really messes with communication. When someone's anxious, they might talk too fast or stumble over their words. It can also cause them to avoid eye contact or shut down completely, making it hard for others to really connect with them. The brain gets caught in worry mode instead of communicating clearly, and
Okay,
sometimes
Maya.
people misread as someone being rude or dismissive when it's really just anxiety doing its thing.
Okay, now tell me, why do people fear being judged when sharing problems?
I think you meant vulnerable rather than venturing, right? Okay. So, why do people fear vulnerability? It's about feeling exposed and risking rejection. When you share something personal, you're putting yourself out there and hoping the other person will receive it well. But it's scary. What if they don't get it or they judge you? That fear of hurting in the moment or damaging the relationship keeps a lot of people silent.
How does trust influence what role does past trauma play in silence?
Hmm. The two are huge. Trust is basically the foundation for opening up. If someone hasn't really proven they're trustworthy yet, like it's way harder to share vulnerable things. Past drama definitely makes people hesitate, especially if they've been burned before. Like if your emotions got manipulated or your confidence got really shaken in the past, you're going to carry some trust issues and probably be less free with what you share moving forward.
Okay, Maya, so now tell me, can overthinking stop someone from sharing their feelings?
Absolutely. Overthinking can completely freeze people. Like they analyze every possible outcome, rehearse conversations in their head that never happen, and get stuck in a loop of what ifs. That loop paralyzes them. It makes
How
it way
does
harder to just be present
self-esteem
in the
impact emotional expression? How does self-esteem impact emotional expression?
self esteem is really important here. When you have high self esteem, you're more likely to feel safe and confident in expressing yourself fully.
Yeah.
When someone struggles with low self esteem, they may not think their feelings matter or fear they'll be seen as dramatic or silly for being vulnerable. Plus,
Okay.
they might believe they deserve bad treatment or
Nice
aren't
answer.
worth being heard.
So now tell me, why
Great.
why do some people prefer isolation during tough times?
Mm, I think you meant difficult times instead of club time, right?
No, my question from you is, why do some people prefer isolation during tough times?
Ah, right, during tough times.
Yeah.
People might isolate because they need to process privately, recharge when overwhelmed, or avoid burdening others. Sometimes, when you're struggling, you need space to sort through things without external opinions, or you're exhausted from being on for everyone else. It's a
Okay.
way to protect themselves.
So now tell me, what is emotional intelligence and why is it important here?
Emotional emotional intelligence is understanding your own emotions and other people's and being able to use that knowledge to navigate interactions well. It's important here because you need emotional awareness to notice when someone's quietly struggling and also empathy to understand what they might be going through without them saying a word. Without that, it's easy to miss those unspoken signals.
Okay. So my next question from you is, how can understanding psychology improve relationships?
Hmm. Psychology teaches you about human behavior, like what motivates people, why they react the way they do, and how trauma shapes us. Knowing
How
these
can we
things helps
ask
you
what's the matter
be
in
more
supportive way? So my next question from you is,
not
how can we ask what's the matter in supportive way?
I mean, how can you word what's the matter better?
Yeah.
Instead of that direct question, you could try things like you seem a little down or is everything okay? Or even, hey, I've noticed you're a bit quiet today. Anything you want to talk about? More gentle and open-ended ways to show you care.
What are active listening skills?
Uh, Active listening is about really hearing someone instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. It means making eye contact, nodding to show you're engaged, reflecting back what they've said, and asking clarifying questions instead of interrupting or jumping to solutions. It's about being present with them completely while they share.
Why is listening more important than speaking in such moments?
Because someone who's struggling really needs to feel heard and understood. If you jump in to fix things or talk about yourself, they might shut down. But when you really listen without interrupting or advising, you make space for them to process their feelings and feel like you actually care about what they're going through. That's powerful.
Okay, so my next question from you is, how can we create a safe space for others to open up?
That's really important. Make sure they won't be judged or interrupted. Nonverbal cues matter. Give them your full attention, use gentle body language, and just show genuine curiosity without getting pushy or giving unsolicited advice. You basically want to make sure they feel like this is one of the safest places to be vulnerable.
What mistake should we avoid when someone shares a problem?
Don't interrupt or change the subject, let them finish. Don't minimize their problems or tell them to look on the bright side before they've even fully shared. Avoid giving unsolicited advice or comparing their situation to yours. And definitely don't use what they tell you against them later. Respect is key. What they
Okay.
share is personal trust.
So, how can we respond without judging?
Respond with empathy and curiosity, not advice or evaluation. Reflect back what you hear. Like, sounds like you're really frustrated. add in your opinion.
Okay,
Start with
Maya.
clarifying questions instead of making assumptions about behaving or feeling. A simple, that
So my
sounds really
next,
hard.
so my last question from you is, how can communication strengthen emotional bonds?
Strong communication, where both people feel safe sharing, and creates trust. When you share and truly listen without judgment, it strengthens the emotional connection and builds intimacy. Knowing someone truly understands you through effective communication makes the whole relationship feel more secure and fulfilling.
So, everyone, this was my session with Maya on the topic of what's the matter for today. I hope you guys liked it, enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. This is Alina Batul. Allah Hafiz and Pakistan Zindabad.